Welcome back to the Fashion Algorithm. Today we're diving deep into sustainable fashion. But first, a word from our sponsor, CloudFit.ai. It's a B2B fashion commerce company. And get this, they use AI to boost user engagement and increase, you guessed it, client revenue. The founders, well, they're the former CPO and CTO of some major fashion e-commerce companies. Pretty impressive, right? So if you like what you hear today, do us a favor and share the episode with anyone who might be into smarter fashion tech. Oh, and don't forget to subscribe while you're at it. Now let's get to the good stuff. You guys send in tons of sources on sustainable fashion, so it's clear this is something you're passionate about. And to be honest, it's something I've been thinking a lot about too. To help us unpack all this info, we have an expert in sustainable fashion joining us today. Welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me.
I'm excited to dive in. One of the articles you sent from the World Economic Forum hit me with a pretty shocking stat. Fashion production is responsible for 10% of global carbon emissions. 10%. That's a huge chunk. I mean, I love clothes, but I never really stopped to think about the environmental impact.
It's a big eye-opener, isn't it? It's easy to get swept up in trends and the excitement of new clothes, but our choices really do have a ripple effect.
Absolutely. Another article mentioned that something like 85% of textiles end up in landfills every year. That's a crazy amount of waste. Where does it all go?
Sadly, a lot of it ends up in landfills where it can take, well, decades, even centuries to decompose, especially if it's synthetic fibers, which are basically plastics. And even natural fibers like cotton require a ton of resources to produce. Did you know it takes about 700 gallons of water to make one cotton shirt?
700 gallons. Yeah. For one shirt, that's like more than I drink in a week. It makes me wonder if conventional cotton farming is really as sustainable as I always thought.
Yeah, that's a good point. Cotton is a natural fiber, but conventional cotton production often relies heavily on pesticides and fertilizers. Those can pollute soil and water. Plus, it uses a lot of water, especially compared to organic cotton farming.
Right. Okay, so organic cotton's the way to go. Got it.
Yeah.
Another fabric I see everywhere is viscose. Isn't that supposed to be a sustainable alternative to silk?
You know, viscose is often marketed as a sustainable alternative, but the reality is a bit more complex. It's made from wood pulp. But the process often involves deforestation and the use of harsh chemicals that can pollute water sources.
So maybe not as eco-friendly as it seems. Okay, so we've got organic cotton, watch out for viscose. Any other fabrics we should be keeping an eye out for?
There are some really innovative and exciting developments in sustainable fabrics. For example, Tencel is made from sustainably sourced wood pulp. And the production process is a lot more environmentally friendly than conventional viscose. It's soft, breathable, and biodegradable. Another thing to consider is recycled materials. More and more brands are using recycled cotton, polyester, even plastic bottles to create new fabrics.
Wow, that's pretty amazing. Sounds like there's some really promising alternatives out there. But, I think a lot of people still wonder, how much does the way clothes are made really matter?
That's a great question. And it's an important one. I think it's helpful to think of it this way. Every step in the fashion supply chain has an impact. From the raw materials to the manufacturing, the transportation, even how we care for our clothes at home.
Right.
And unfortunately, the fast fashion industry is designed for speed and low costs, and that often comes at the expense of the environment and, well, the people making our clothes.
It's true. I remember reading about the Rana Plaza tragedy in Bangladesh, where that garment factory building collapsed, over 1,100 people died. It was just a devastating reminder of the human cost of fast fashion.
Absolutely. And one of the articles you sent pointed out that labor costs usually make up less than 3% of the final price of clothing.
Yeah, it's crazy.
So ensuring fair wages for garment workers wouldn't actually increase costs that much for consumers.
It really makes you think.
It does. Ethical and sustainable fashion goes beyond just the materials used. It's about safe working conditions, fair wages, and respecting the rights of everyone involved in the process.
Absolutely. Okay, so we've talked a lot about the problems with fast fashion, but I think what we really want to get into are the solutions. How can we as consumers start making more sustainable choices?
That's the million-dollar question, and it's where things start to get really exciting. There are so many things we can do, both big and small, to make our fashion habits more sustainable. So where do we even start?
Yeah, that's what I'm wondering. I mean, it feels kind of overwhelming. Like, can I, as one person, really make a difference when the fashion industry is so huge?
Oh, absolutely. Every choice we make has an impact. And the good news is you don't have to, completely overhaul your wardrobe overnight. It's more about making gradual changes, taking those baby steps.
Okay, that sounds a bit less daunting. So what's a good first step?
One of the easiest things you can do is shop your own closet.
Mm.
I think we often forget about all the great pieces we already have, hiding in there.
Oh, for sure.
So take some time to rediscover those forgotten pieces, try styling them in new ways, maybe even host a clothing swap with friends.
Oh, clothing swaps are the best. It's like shopping, but free.
And
Way less guilt.
exactly, it's a win-win.
Okay.
And then when you do need to buy something new, just take a moment to ask yourself, do I really need this?
Yeah. I am so guilty of impulse buys,
Mm.
especially when I see those limited time offer emails.
Oh, we've all been there. Another tip is to create mood boards or style inspiration boards to help you kind of visualize your personal style and figure out what pieces you truly love and will wear for years to come.
Yeah, that's smart. So I'm basically like being more intentional with my shopping.
Exactly. And when you are ready to shop, look for sustainable brands, ones that align with your values. There are so many incredible brands out there that are prioritizing ethical production, eco-friendly materials, and transparency in their supply chain.
Okay, that all sounds great, but how do I even know where to find those brands?
Yeah.
It seems like there's a lot of greenwashing out there. Companies just slapping an eco-friendly label on something without actually backing it up.
Yeah, you're right. It's definitely important to be a savvy consumer. Look for certifications like Fairtrade, GOTS, which stands for Global Organic Textile Standard, and Ocotex. Those indicate that the products meet certain environmental and ethical standards.
Okay.
You can also do some research online, read reviews, and check out the brand's website. Learn more about their practices and values.
Got it.
Yeah.
I like that there are certifications and stuff to look for. It takes some of the guesswork out of it.
It does. And at the end of the day, sustainability is a journey, not a destination.
Right.
It's about making progress, not about being perfect.
I can get behind that.
Yeah.
So let's say I've found some sustainable brands I love. What are some other ways to shop more sustainably?
Well, thrifting is always a fantastic option.
Oh, I love thrifting.
It's a great way to give clothes a second life and find some truly unique pieces at super affordable prices.
That's like treasure hunt.
It is.
And I always feel good knowing that I'm giving clothes a second chance instead of, contributing to more waste.
Exactly. And don't forget about clothing rental.
Oh, yeah.
It's a great option for special occasions or even just for trying out new styles without committing to buying something you might only wear once.
That's a good point.
Yeah.
I've never really thought about renting clothes before.
It's a really fun way to experiment with different styles, too.
Okay, so we've covered a lot here. Shop your closet, be more intentional, look for sustainable brands, thrifting, even renting clothes. It seems like there are actually a lot of options.
There are. And remember, it's not just about the clothes themselves. It's also about how we care for them. Extending the lifespan of our clothes is a key part of sustainable fashion.
Oh, right. I've definitely heard about things like washing clothes less often, air drying, but does that stuff really make a difference?
It makes a huge difference. Washing your clothes less frequently reduces wear and tear, it saves water and energy, and it even helps prevent microfibers from shedding into the water supply and air drying. Well, it not only conserves energy, but it also helps your clothes last longer.
Interesting. I think I need to rethink my laundry routine.
Yeah, it really does.
So it's not just about buying less, but also about taking care of what we already have. Like that old saying, mend and make do.
Exactly. Repairing clothes instead of just tossing them is a key part of sustainable fashion. Learning some basic mending skills like sewing on buttons, patching holes, even darning socks can really extend the life of your clothes.
I've always wanted to learn how to darn socks. My grandma used to do it. I always thought it was the coolest thing. Maybe it's time to dust off the sewing kit.
I highly recommend it. It's surprisingly satisfying. And it feels good to give your clothes a second life. Speaking of giving clothes a second life, have you ever considered upcycling or repurposing old clothes?
I've seen some cool ideas on Pinterest, like turning old t-shirts into tote bags or using fabric scraps to make quilts. But I'm not really the crafty type.
You don't have to be a master seamstress to upcycle. Even something as simple as cutting up an old t-shirt to use as cleaning rags is a form of upcycling.
Oh, true.
It's all about finding those creative ways to keep textiles out of landfill.
Right, reducing waste.
Exactly. And sustainability isn't just about individual actions, it's also about systemic change.
Right.
We need to hold brands accountable, advocate for policies that promote ethical and sustainable practices, and support organizations that are working to make the fashion industry more responsible.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. It feels like there's a real movement happening now with more and more people becoming aware of the impact of their choices and demanding change. It's pretty inspiring.
It is. And it's so important to remember that our voices matter. By making conscious choices, supporting sustainable brands, and speaking up about these issues, we can help create a more ethical and sustainable fashion industry for everyone.
Couldn't said it better myself. So we've covered a lot in this deep dive, from understanding fast fashion to practical solutions for a more sustainable wardrobe. It's been really eye-opening. What are some key takeaways you hope listeners will remember?
I think the biggest thing is that sustainable fashion isn't about perfection. It's about progress. Every small change, every conscious choice adds up to a bigger impact. Whether it's shopping our closets, choosing eco-friendly fabrics, supporting ethical brands, or simply caring for our clothes better, we all have the power to make a difference.
Absolutely. It's not about feeling guilty or overwhelmed. It's about taking those small steps and feeling empowered to make a positive impact.
Exactly.
Well, thank you so much for joining us and sharing your expertise.
It was my pleasure.
For our listeners, be sure to check out the show notes for links to all the resources we talked about. And a big shout out to our sponsor, Cloutfit.ai, for supporting this episode. They're using AI to make fashion smarter and more efficient, which is super cool. If you enjoyed this deep dive into sustainable fashion, we'd love for you to share it with a friend who might appreciate a little smarter fashion tech. And of course, don't forget to subscribe to the Fashion Algorithm for more deep dives into the fascinating world of fashion. Until next time.